All right, today we're jumping right into a really powerful argument about the future of money itself. We're going to unpack a Gatestone Institute article that lays out a pretty stark warning about something called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs for short.
And the source material does not pull any punches. It kicks off with this incredibly powerful quote from economist Richard A. Werner. This right here, this sets the tone for the entire concern we're exploring today, the potential for a kind of control we've never seen before. So what exactly is this warning? Well, the article frames its entire case around a single, really potent metaphor, the idea that CBDCs could actually create a digital prison.
And here's the core of it. The article's main claim is that this isn't just about switching from paper cash to digital cash. No, it's arguing this is a massive shift in the power dynamic between you, the individual, and the state, with your own economic freedom basically hanging in the balance.
Okay, so to really get the argument, we all need to be on the same page. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a CBDC? So the most important word to focus on here is directly. See, right now, when you use your debit card, or Venmo, or Apple Pay, you're moving money that's held by a commercial bank, right? Like Chase or Citibank. A CBDC is totally different. It would be a direct liability of the central bank itself, like the Federal Reserve here in the US. You'd basically be holding digital dollars issued straight from the source.
And this right here boils down the fundamental difference that the article is so concerned about. With cash, you are in control. It's in your pocket and your transactions are pretty much anonymous. With a CBDC, the argument goes, that control shifts to a central authority, and every single thing you buy could be tracked.
And look, according to the source, this isn't just some wild theory. The article points to this quote from Agustin Carstens, who's the head of the Bank for International Settlements, and he says it right out loud. A CBDC would give the central bank absolute control and the tech to actually enforce its rules.
So how would this control actually work? I mean, what would it look like day to day? The article gets really specific about the mechanics of it.
Okay, this is the concept that is at the absolute heart of the warning. It all comes down to this one word, programmability. It's the idea that your money would stop being just, money. Instead, it could be coded with specific rules about how and when and even where you're allowed to spend it.
And here's the three-step process the article lays out. First, some authority, the government or the central bank, sets the rules. Second, because every transaction is visible, all your spending gets monitored against those rules. And third, and this is the real kicker, enforcement is totally automated. Your money could literally just refuse to work if you try to buy something that's not approved.
Now, if that sounds a bit abstract, the article gives some concrete and, frankly, pretty alarming examples of what this could mean. We're talking about things like limiting how much beef you can buy, or tying your spending to a carbon allowance, or even restricting your travel. The list even includes linking your spending to your political views.
And to argue this isn't just some far-off sci-fi scenario, the source points to something that happened very recently, when the Canadian government froze the bank accounts of truckers who were protesting. The article holds us up as a kind of preview of the financial control that would become way easier and way more widespread with a CBDC. So, if the risks are as serious as the article claims they are, where does the world actually stand on this? Is this really happening?
Well, according to a study that's cited in the article, this is anything but a niche idea. Just look at that number, 134 countries. That's how many are apparently exploring or actively building a central bank digital currency. That's most of the global economy.
But the momentum is definitely not the same everywhere. The source paints this picture of the European Union barreling ahead with its plans for a digital euro. Meanwhile, over in the United States, there's been some serious political and legislative pushback. And that pushback isn't just talk. The article points out that in May of 2024, the House of Representatives actually passed a bill to try and block the Federal Reserve from issuing a CBDC. It also highlights former President Trump's promise to ban one if elected. So you can see there's a real political fight over this in the US.
So who does the article say is driving this whole thing? Well, its perspective is that this isn't some natural technological evolution. Instead, it's framed as a deliberate top-down agenda by what the source calls globalist leaders who are trying to increase their power over the rest of us.
So let's bring it all home. What does this all mean for you? The source presents this as more than just a debate about finance or tech. It's really a fundamental question about the relationship between your money and your personal freedom.
This table really sums up the key arguments from the article perfectly. First, you've got the loss of privacy, the idea that the state could see every single purchase you make. Then there's the threat of programmable money, where someone else gets to control your spending. And finally, no recourse. You can't exactly argue with a computer algorithm that just says no.
And to put all of this into a broader historical context, the author makes a really striking comparison. They point out that way back in the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx called for centralizing all credit in the hands of the state through a national bank. The article basically suggests that a CBDC is the high-tech 21st century version of that exact idea.
And that leaves us right here with the central question this whole analysis poses. You hear supporters talk about convenience and efficiency. But the source material we've just walked through asks us to think about a much, much darker possibility. Is this technology the key to an easier future, or is it the lock on that digital prison? That's the question to think about.